So I am here at a Creative Live in San Francisco, and I'm here doing my second workshop. And I hear you are coming to do your second workshop in just a little bit. So can you tell us first just what the title is and what dates you're going to be here?
Yeah, I'm going to be there March 6th and 7th. And the title is Creativity, Spirituality, and Making a Buck.
I love it. I love it. So when Michael told me that we were going to be chit-chatting here, I said, absolutely, that is such a great idea. My background is in religious studies and music, and I've gotten into the business world through all sorts of weird channels. So I understand from my experience how these things kind of come together. But I'd love to know from your perspective, how are these three really different topics, creativity, spirituality, and making a buck, related? How do they come together to help someone become truly successful?
Well, there's two parts there, and the first one is they come together through you. That's what connects the three. And the idea of success, is something that probably some people are redefining these days, in terms of what that really fully means. And the idea of roughly speaking, the three parts of the program, the spirituality is a sort of wraparound for the notion of actually well-being and how you take care of yourself and how you take care of others, the quality of life, really, and the quality of your state of mind. And that's we're addressing that through, the window of the Buddhist meditation practice. And then, which is essentially the mindfulness practice. Creativity is whatever you got, you bring it, Who knows where that comes from? So that's to just, unleash. We're talking about really just finding that within oneself and unleashing it and really allowing that to flow out of each of us, And then making a buck is, really in traditional terms would be like the idea of right livelihood. That it's something we all have to do. We have to relate to livelihood properly and fully. And it can be an expression of a kind of desperate attempt to survive, or it can be uplifted and dignified way of conducting yourself in the world. So we have that kind of choice. But the three are really threaded through each one of us. That's what we're going to be talking about, is how we become the vehicle for integrating those three dimensions of our own life.
Oh, I love the way you put that, us becoming a vehicle for integrating those three things. I think that's really beautiful. So you mentioned meditation practice just a minute ago. How do you see a meditation practice really benefiting creative business owners, freelancers, small business owners? Yeah,
well, in my tradition, the notion of meditation is how you handle your awareness and your state of mind. So a lot of people don't have much training in that area, quite frankly. It's sort of the hidden aspect, but it's lurking behind everything we do and say and try to do in the world. So the idea of just leaving some time and space for oneself to settle into a kind of mindful space and learn how to focus our awareness and our attention in a more precise way. And the idea is it's sort of antidote for what I like to call spaghetti mind. It's been called monkey mind, and I also sometimes call it James Joyce mind, because we're just scattered and diffused. And the idea is that meditation practice, in this tradition anyhow, can help us just gather our mind into a sort of more focused kind of state.
I love that. I think
that's good for everything. I call it that mindfulness goes with everything. It's the ultimate mixer.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think we could all use a little bit more focus in our daily lives. At least I know I could. All right, so earlier you mentioned the idea of right livelihood and approaching your livelihood from the area of dignity and uplifting it and, making it a real sense of pride, I think, or at least of value in your life. So what do you see as the connection between your own sense of self-worth and the projected value of what you're offering as a business owner or as a freelancer?
Yeah, I think this comes up for a lot of people, and in talking to the people at Creative Live, it seems to be a theme that runs through a lot of the workshops, which is, how we value our own, our own sense of self immediately gets rippled out into how we frame our offering to others and how we, sort of what we ask for in return. And so simply put, low self-esteem is you're gonna give a low ask.
Absolutely.
You know, so if there's some sense of genuine value and genuine worth, it becomes a very honest kind of exchange, and we don't have to like cower in what I call poverty mentality. You know, we feel impoverished, so therefore we're kind of not really worth it. You know, so therefore working with one's own inner process can have a very positive effect in terms of how you set up negotiations, how you figure out what your offering is, and kind of without pride or arrogance, how to properly stand up for oneself.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's definitely a problem I see in my own business an awful lot. So many clients come to me with these questions of self-worth and how that translates into the way they make their asks, the way they create systems for revenue. So I'm so glad you're going to be talking about that even more. Let's look at the creativity side of things a little bit more. We all get stuck in ruts. Can you give us maybe 3 tips on how to get ourselves out of those creative ruts as they come up?
Well, you know, it's funny you're saying that, because the way I'm looking at it, there's ruts in all 3 of those areas. We can have a creative rut. We sometimes have what you have to call a spiritual rut, and sometimes a business rut. And so the image of, you know, a car stuck in mud, which is very appropriate today in New York. We've got like slush all over the place. What you do is you take a board and you put it underneath one of the wheels, and then it gets traction, right? So in the creative area, so that means there's some tool we have to bring in. Creative rut means usually we're trying too hard. Frankly, just from my personal experience, everybody's too tight, you know, and so often loosening up is a key to letting the creativity flow, and that could take the form of I call it playing in the sandbox. You know, you have to leave some time for a non-agenda-sized, you know, exploration to happen. And if you're a photographer or a musician, you know, there has to be some freedom of exploration and some ease with that. So that would be, you know, lightening up. A second approach would be sometimes the opposite, of course. We say not too tight and not too loose. There's kind of the rope has gotten slack and you need to tighten it up, like guitar strings are too slack. So, you know, applying some effort, for example, could be a really good way. Focus on, like I'm writing a book right now. You're a writer, right?
Absolutely.
So you know that space where you go like, hey, you got to get over there and sit in front of the computer and actually do this now.
Yes.
So that, you know, the one would be too tight and one would be too loose. And I think the third part is recognizing that you really are not, your creative energy is really coming through you more than from you. You know, and so there's got to be a kind of openness to the environment, to the whole setting that you're in, to the other people around, so that you're in a receptive space. And you can let stuff come into you, new, fresh input, you know, then it comes out as some kind of unpredictable way. Do you agree? You think?
Absolutely, yes, especially to your last point. Yeah, I mean, for myself, I have a very particular practice of making sure that I'm ingesting the kind of information that I want, that I'm having the kind of conversations that I want, and I'm very particular about it because I know those are the things that set me up to be more present in my creative mind and allow, just as you said, allow that creativity to flow through me instead of always trying to push it out from me. So I love that. Okay, so we were talking a little bit earlier at break about how, you know, creativity, we start to think about it as in terms of the arts, or in terms of crafts, or in terms of, you know, just these more traditional creative pursuits. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, how can a non-artistic entrepreneur really tap into their creativity, benefit from the creativity happening all around them?
Gee, Tara, if this doesn't work out, you should have your own talk show. You're good at this.
Thank you.
Well, you know, from the point of view of, I studied in a Buddhist tradition called Shambhala, and the idea is that everything's creative. You know, we're talking about creativity in ordinary life, how you set the table, you know, how you chose those earrings that you're wearing. You know, you get to choose frames for your glasses. All those are creative areas that everybody's involved with. And I'm a musician. I don't know if everybody knows that or not, but I've had quite a long career in the music business, a lot of different aspects, producing records, playing guitar, film scoring, television scoring, all that stuff. And I'm used to people saying, "Oh, you're creative. I could never be creative." You know that rap?
Absolutely.
And honestly, when you choose what you're having for breakfast in the morning, you're being creative. So I think in business, there's huge room. Like the great entrepreneurs, they're all wildly creative, in the sense that there's a process of uncovering or exploring, letting things arise, letting thoughts come into your mind. I just read a quote by Albert Einstein earlier today that basically the rational mind was meant to be the kind of attendant or a servant, and the creative or intuitive mind is meant to be the gift, and we've reversed it in Western culture.
Yeah.
So the idea of recognizing that, that creativity is really just being alive, is being creative.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
Doing business is very creative. You got to choose your logos. You have to choose your staff. You have to learn how to talk to people. You have to learn how to negotiate. That's all creative stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love, too, your point about choice, and that identifying choice as these areas, all the choices that you have to make as these areas you are being creative, whether you know it or not, because that's a big theme for my workshop this time, is thinking about what are the choices that we make and how do these choices affect our business? And so often those choices become non-choices, where we ignore our ability to make choice. We almost kind of turn off our creative brain for a little bit. So I love that you are reinforcing that idea.
Tara, sometimes people have it drilled in their head by their parents or whoever along the way. I had a friend who thought she was tone deaf. I said, there's no such thing. You just have to really learn how to hear sound and hear music. And I saw her 5 years again. She just graduated from music school. It was one of the nice moments in my life,
Awesome.
I think people have a voice, a negative voice in their head that has to be really first seen and then maybe uprooted a little bit, so that there's a recognition of the potential that we have,
Beautiful. I love it. Well, David, tell us one more time, what are the dates that we can check you out on Creative Live?
So this is March 6th and 7th, Creativity, Spirituality, and Making a Buck. And we're going to be looking a lot at the underlying principles of those things. More big picture stuff than, charge $398 or $395. But if you understand, my theory is if you understand the principles, you can always figure out the details. If you don't understand the principles, you might get lucky.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree, David. Thank you so much for talking with us, and we'll check you out March 6th and 7th.
Thanks, Tara. I hope I meet you someday.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, in real person.
Yes. Bye.
Bye-bye.